Oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful. In the forest thou art green, in the forest thou art green, in the mountain thou art high, in the mountain thou art high, in the river thou art restless, in the river thou art restless, in the ocean thou art grave, in the ocean thou art grave. O God beautiful, O God beautiful, O God beautiful, O God beautiful. Welcome to today's broadcast of the unpublished writings of Paramhansa Yogananda. My name is Swami Raman, and we're going to read a poem published by Yogananda in his Inner Culture magazine in August of 1938. He entitled the poem, Breathe in Me. Breathe in me the way to love you, that I may learn to faultlessly love you. Pour me the wisdom wine by which I may become intoxicated with you. Whisper in my ears of silence the way to be with you always. Speak to my wandering senses and lead them back to the sanctuary within. Call the marauding mind and counsel it how to retrace its steps back unto your home. With your silent eyes, just look at me, and I will know where to find you. You may hide behind the ocean. You may hide behind delusion. You may hide behind life. You may hide behind dualities. You may hide behind theological conundrums. You may hide behind unanswered prayers, but you cannot hide behind my love. For in the mirroring light of my love, you are revealed. Well, thanks for joining us today. Science has been our religion. The Science of Religion is the title of Yogananda's very first book. And they were his concepts in the book, but it was ghostwritten by a friend of his because his English at that early point in his life was still not good enough. And so the book was sort of rewritten in a new form by Swami Kriyananda many years later. But what I want to say, though, is that when I say science is our religion, what I mean is, and as I alluded to in a previous broadcast even yesterday, it's the rational mind for many people in this civilization at this time in history. It's the rational mind. It's the prove it to me mind that prevails in terms of authenticating perceptions. And so using that mind, rather than maybe the intuitive knowing of the heart, for example, and other things such as scriptures or that kind of authority, using the scientific mind, we are told that nothing is as it appears. That behind everything that we see, touch, taste, or feel is a reality completely and wholly different, yes, but unintuitive to our experience. Completely, we could never possibly imagine from the experience in the body, the concept of atoms and molecules and quarks and all manner of things. And those are some of the smallest pieces. Behind that, well, who knows what there is? Well, we know what there is, and science sort of knows what there is. It's called energy. And so when Yogananda wrote this poem and talking about God being just behind this and just behind that, that has always resonated with me, maybe because I have that scientific mind of our culture. I suppose it is. But in other words, without the science, without the endorsement of science, what would I think of such poetry, for example? I think intuitively I would understand it, but I think the testimony of science really helps endorse it, because the rational mind, as I say, for many of us, for billions of us really, is the authenticating power in our world today. We don't look to priests or imams or rabbis or gurus, really. I mean, as a civilization, that is. We look to science to tell us what is true. Unfortunately, we're finding in this culture, in these sad times, these confused times, that science can't agree, and truth is science changes its mind every so many years, or at least every generation. I think of all the dietary fads endorsed by the findings of science, and science has discredited itself, and scientists have discredited themselves by selling their souls, in some cases for money or to business and so forth. In other cases, selling their souls to competition and recognition. Sometimes selling their souls to detract their competitors in science even. They're human, my goodness. And so we may authenticate things with the rational mind, the scientific mind, but it is no more reliable than any other way that's based on something outside our heart's knowing. And our hearts don't really know that much, meaning they are up and down, to put it mildly. And so the true authority is more than Scripture, although that's a great place to start traditionally, isn't it? But the testimony of the saints, this testimony of those who have dealt with life not just competently but successfully, who have found the pearl of great price in their wanderings. And they have suffered like all human beings, sometimes much more than most human beings. And suffering takes many forms. It can be physical, yes, like being nailed to a cross. But that took, 3 hours, they tell us? I don't mean to demean that in any way, but suffering takes many forms. Emotional suffering, rejection, betrayal, humiliation. Those are other forms. There's a story, I've never found its source, but there's a story that the great avatar of the 19th century, Ramakrishna Paramhansa, was acquired or attracted those whom he could train, his disciples, somewhat late in life, apparently, and he was up on the roof, the story goes, and shouting to the universe, "Where are my disciples?" In other words, he had a great gift to give, and he knew he had been born to do that, but nobody thus far apparently had been interested. Well, as we know, Swami Vivekananda was his most famous disciple, but he had many deep disciples. And so, looking to the saints, looking to the masters, to the avatars, that's not, speaking of this rational culture and the science of mind, to make a pun sort of, looking at that also is unpopular. And I think I mentioned in yesterday's broadcast that this culture, being rational and scientifically oriented, is unfortunate and egalitarian affirming, which of course is a good thing. All those are good things. But it certainly does not lend our civilization in the direction of openness to the masters. Discipleship to a guru is a difficult concept, increasingly difficult concept for young people and others to understand. And yet it is ultimately the only solution. So here we are with the conundrum that the masters, that God has taken human form through the souls of the masters to guide civilization and to guide individuals, more importantly than civilization, but both. And once again, we have a situation, a new dispensation, as I mentioned yesterday with Master, in which the society is only partly ready. The society probably won't fully embrace the teachings that he has brought. And thus it is that those who are in tune have the opportunity to embrace but also share and to live that great message. Okay, well, today's Friday, so we won't see you until Monday.